hands as we clap for them. Minister of God from different ministries in Ife, Osun State, and all over the country that are here with us. You are warmly welcome. Thank you very much. Also, we recognize the presence of deans of faculties from Obafemi Awolowo University here in Ile-Ife, Nigeria. Can you please wave your hands if you are deans of faculties present with here in the premium class? Also, the head of departments from different departments. Can you please wave your hands? Please, let's clap for them. Head of departments from different departments of OAU Ile-Ife, Nigeria. We also welcome all professors here, all staff and lecturers from OAU, and also staff members of OAU Teaching Hospital. Please, can we clap for them? Can we clap for them? And I want you to clap for yourself too. I want you to welcome yourself. And lastly, please, I would like us to recognize the presence of the Commissioner of Police of Osun State, highly represented by Mrs. Superintendent Opalola Yemisi Olawoyi. Can we please clap for her? The Police Public Relations Officer of Osun State. The Commissioner of Police is highly represented here by Superintendent Opalola Yemisi Olawoyi, the Police Public Relations Officer of Osun State. Please, let's clap for her again. You are welcome, ma. So please, let's settle down, and I will like to invite to the podium now for our presentation the Acting State Manager, Osun State Bank of Industry, in the person of Mrs. Oluwatoyin Famo. Please, let's clap our hands as we welcome her to do our presentation.
As I said, were very, very impactful, and there's no way you would listen to 5 minutes of his talk and not go away with one thing. I'm not sure there's anybody here who wouldn't go away with something. It was very impactful, and I'd like to say that I wasn't here from the beginning, but I would like to say that I am already seeing, and I already see that he's an impactful person. This is the first time I've been in this church. This is the first time I'm actually stepping foot here, and I see the whole organization. Whenever I go to places, the way you know impactful leaders is the way the environment looks. First things first. The way your house looks actually depicts how responsible a person is, believe it or not. So when I got in here first, I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. I told my colleague, and I'm like, they even have a diagnostic center. Not all churches. I mean, you go to some churches and you're like, why? I mean, just, sorry to say, but you'll be like, why not just close down this place? But stepping into this place, the atmosphere is wonderful. The place is beautiful, and the ideas and the impact. So I'd like to say, keep it up. Well done. And I hope that just the way this place looks beautiful, reflect it outside. Let it not just be about, don't let the tag be, oh, it's those who don't have, the wretched ones are the ones who worship God. No, the tag is let the vibe be out there. You know, let's vibe the Christ out in us, and people would love us for it. You don't even have to preach Christ before people would want to follow you. Sometimes they'll be like, what does she even do? I mean, who does she worship? They'll be the ones to come and tell you that, come and show me the way. And then you tell them the way is Jesus, and they'll be shocked. You know, so I think there was a friend of mine that told somebody, oh, the way is Emmanuel. And I said, okay, take me to Emmanuel, not knowing that Emmanuel was God, Jesus. So when he said, okay, I'm going to take you to Emmanuel, and took him to church, and was like, is this where it is? He said, yes, this is where I source my being from. If you wake up in the morning sometimes, believe it or not, and you don't go down on your knees to pray, your whole day is like it's not arranged, it's shattered. Try it and see. Just take note if you haven't. But when you draw that power from God, there's always an essence in your day, and your day is always blessed. So again, my name is Famro from Bank of Industry, and I'm here to share with you. As I know that there are very young people here, very young people, and then very still young people over here too, that I'll be sharing what we offer at Bank of Industry to. Majorly, we give out loans, very, very affordable loans. 9% per annum is the interest rates. That's why I said it's very affordable. There was a time that we're doing 0% interest rates for graduates, those who were still serving. But that's on hold for now. There was a time we're doing 5% for traders, but that's on hold for now. That was going on because Dangote gave us a fund to give to traders. But there's a pang on it now. Maybe in the next couple of months, we'll start that again. But what we have for now is for manufacturers, which I would explain to you. There's a slide, yes, but most of the time I just like to, just flow. So basically, we give loans to manufacturing companies. I'll give examples. We give loans to, maybe you produce plastics, the chairs you're sitting on. We give loans to people who, maybe you do the printers, those that do the books, to restaurants, to bakeries, to, we have financed a lot of projects in Ife here. I think we have over 35 projects in Ife alone, because we monitor on a monthly basis. So we always come here. We were here last week to monitor projects. If you're into fabrications, we give our loans to people. Poultry farmers, fishery farmers, those kind of, I'm just trying to give you an insight into what we do. Processing, basically. Those are the kind of people that we give loans out to. I always advise people, if you want to take a loan, it's good to dream big, good to dream very big. People will walk into this church and be like, wow, this church is nice. Just like every business, you see businesses that are booming and you be like, this business is good, I want to start. But you will not know that the person who had the dream to build this church started 25 years ago, or if not more, maybe even started 40 years ago. Maybe, probably. But he said he started 25 years ago. So there was a dream somewhere. It was a big dream, but he started somewhere. So I always advise people, start from somewhere. If you decide, I want to start a business today, and you want to take a loan, and you take the whole loan, you build the whole business with a loan, the probability of being able to pay, that your cash flow will be able to pay from the business is minimal. Not impossible, but minimal. So it is always advisable that you do your projections properly and know that you maybe some people still want to go to school, know that you still have to pay for your masters, you still have to pay for your rent and stuff like that. Basically it's always from the business, if you have to face it. Sometimes you have to separate businesses from personal stuff. But then why are you doing the business? The business is so you can have a good life, live a very good life, basically. So I always say that we start small. So the first slide. So our vision is to be Africa's leading development financial institution operating under global best practices, majorly. So it just includes that when we start asking for documentations like you need to be registered with CAC, we're trying to have global best practices. We won't lend to an individual, but a company, like an enterprise. So if you have a company, you have to register it at CAC, either as an enterprise or a limited liability company. Usually I advise people who are going for loans lower than 10 million naira to register as enterprises. Because if you apply with a limited liability company, it's usually more complex. There are fees that are attached to it that you have to pay. So it's the annual returns, the legal fees, because it is a limited liability company. So if the loan is a small loan, you can opt for an enterprise. I think they usually register it within 15,000 to 20,000. I'm not so sure of how much it is. So, and our mission is to transform Nigeria's industrial sector by providing financial and business support services to enterprises. The mandate of the bank is to provide financial assistance for the establishment of large, medium, small projects, as well as expansion, diversification, modernization of existing enterprises, and rehabilitation of existing ones. Next slide, please. So these are the product clusters. This is just a few of them. On this list, we have Adire, Ashoke. I think we have a customer in Ife here who does Ashoke that we financed. Animal feeds is also production, aquaculture, bakery, block, interlocking stones, bottled water, ceramic and tiles, chemicals and paints, cosmetics, hair products, dairy production, that's like chocolates, milk, and the likes. digital printing, multimedia, fashion, garmenting, fish, smoking and drying, processing, foundries, metal fabrications, 3D printing, fruit juice, furniture, wood processing, gemstones, greenhouse, so many more. So I think this gives you a vast idea of what we do at Bank of Industry. Next slide, please. It gives you a vast idea. So majorly, difficulties in loan documentations. In Nigeria, as we all know, we don't have a database. You go abroad, you walk into a bank, or you want to take a loan, they just check your credit score and tell you, okay, so your money will be ready in 2 days. But welcome to Nigeria. So usually, difficulties that people have in loan documentation, number one is usually capital. The capital to the fund, somebody who is just graduating from school, you might not really have the equity contribution to maybe even, you'll be surprised to even register the business, possibly. So, or maybe the funds to even put together the documents, you have to get guarantors and all that stuff. As little as it seems, some people don't have the capital to raise that. Marketing strategy. When a lot of people come up for, want to start a business, they don't have strategies as to how they tend to attain, sell their products. They don't have strategies. There's always a gap in every market. There's always a gap to fill in every market. I always say that. Somebody was saying, they want to start meat processing business, but they feel like all the people in the market are already selling meat. Somebody can go into it. And I was like, if you think deeply and look at it from this angle, there are people who don't actually like, the elites who don't like the idea of smoking cows with kerosene. I don't know if there's anyone who agrees with me here. There are people who don't like the smell of that kerosene on food. So they feel it's not hygienic, which I agree with. If you come in, I think some people are beginning to fabricate gas burners that can smoke cow meat and goat meat. So that is an idea. That's a market selling point. That's a market strategy. If your product is going to be smoked that way, and then your cuts are neatly cut, so they know that this person is hygienic, I want to buy from that person. And you are packaging it and selling to your own market. I feel like that's already a gap that somebody has filled. So there's usually always a gap to fill. There's no market that is too crowded for me. So incorporation, a lot of businesses are not incorporated. They don't have, some businesses have been running for over 10 years, but they are not accountable when it comes to business. So they don't know, they don't have their sales records, they don't know what comes into the business and goes out of the business. They don't have, their customers don't pay to them. So when their staff shortchanges them, they are not aware. They don't know what goes into the business and comes out of the businesses. And then some of them are not even registered with CAC. And they've been operating, maybe the name, there's a signboard there. Somebody else will take the name, and they don't even know, they won't know that someone else has taken their names. So when it's time to either do a contract or get a loan, and they go to register that name, they find out that someone else has actually taken the name and they've been operating with another person's name. Bankable ideas. A lot of people usually don't have bankable ideas. What I mean by bankable ideas are ideas that you have to be able to sell whatever it is you're carrying. You have to be able to, if you want to sell Gary, for example, there's Gary everywhere. Anybody can get Gary anywhere. So you need to tell me why I should choose your Gary over another one I have been buying for a very long time. If I've been buying beans in the market and you're coming to me that you want to start selling beans to me, and I really like the woman I buy beans from, so what difference are you going to do? Are you going to tell me that yours is picked? Are you going to pick your beans? Basically, do you understand? Or are you saying that your beans is better than? So there has to be, your ideas have to be bankable to me and to a lot of people, especially your customers. Business model, same thing as bankable idea. Business model is much more wider in the sense that it's all about what your business is going to be. I think that Professor said something. I wrote it down. He said something about build for eternity. Majority of businesses don't build for eternity. If the chief promoter is not there, the business does not run. So when you ask people sometimes, if you're not in charge of, if you're not around, who is going to take care of your business? They'll tell you that anywhere I'm going to handle my business from there. You need to rest, is a fact. You can't take it away. Any day that I don't sleep well, I know that it tells on me. You need to rest, and then you need to also build businesses for eternity. So you can't do it alone. When you hear leaders that are saying that they're the only ones doing it, I have a team that I work with. I don't do anything alone. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing that I do alone. I cannot stand and say that I've been able to achieve what I achieved in my office alone. Impossible. There's no one single leader that does things alone. So if you want to, you have to be able to learn. So for you to also build a business, you need that. You need to be able to find people who are like you, like minds, who are not just there to reign and run off. So you need to find like minds like you who are willing to work. Although people might not work with you for long, the idea is build people up, set them off, get more people, build them up, and then they'll be on their way. So they'll remember that, oh, this person just keeps building people, that's how you begin to have the influence all over. So you need to, that's what the business model is, having all of this, and then your cash flow, operating your business in transparently and with integrity, and then having I think I'm already talking about hiring employees already too. So letting your yes be yes, having also having bankable words, so that whenever you say something, people take you for it. Next slide, please. And they don't go home disappointed. Okay, this is a lot of story. So, next slide, please. So these are our core sectors, okay. Oh yeah, our core sectors, it's just the same thing as the other clusters that I projected earlier on. The agro, processing, oil and gas, solid minerals, creative industries, engineering, education, trade. Also for education, we do, what are they called now? When you, vocational and trade schools. If you have a vocational school or a trade school, we can finance equipment in there. Or you have a lab of your school that you think we can come in to finance, we would do that for you comfortably. Next slide, please. So this is just about the engineering and technology. Next slide, please. Just basically about, I think I left out something, recycling. We also do recycling, production of plastics, PET bottle production, and the likes. So these are the requirements for accessing a loan facilities from us. We can send you the soft copies to your email address. We also have some copies here but they are quite easy and I can quickly run through them. Number one is your application letter stating that what you want from us. Number two is you submit invoices for the items that you want to buy. Your CAC registration, bank statements. If you don't have a bank statement yet because it's a new company, you bring your own bank statements, but you have to open an account for your company. Sales record for 6 months. Detailed CV of the directors of the company, ID card and 4 passports, 2 guarantors that would stand to say that you are creditworthy, they know you. That's the only thing we are taking as collateral, 2 guarantors. BOI questionnaire, KYC form is what we will give to you to fill. So the BOI questionnaire replaces the business plan. Instead of you having to do a business plan, you can fill the questionnaire by yourself comfortably. If your product needs NAFDAC, then you have to give us evidence of NAFDAC. And anywhere you're using for the business, you would also have to give us something to show that, okay, this place is yours or it's rented, so that we don't give money. And then, I believe everybody here is trustworthy, full of integrity. So I'm sure that's not the case here. So that's the next slide, please. That is for the enterprise. For the SME, just a slight difference. Slight difference is the CAC and the collateral. So CAC registration for enterprises, the incorporation, CAC 2.1, CAC 7, particulars of directors, company secretary, shareholders, and then the collateral. It's either you give us a letter of intent or from a bank or C of O or deed of assignment. This is for loans above 10 million naira up to 1.5 billion. You can get more than 1.5 billion from our Lagos office, but at the branch level, our limit is 1.5 billion, which we would gladly do for you rather. And at any time you need any more information, we'll drop our number with Dr. Jumoke for you to call us. Thank you so very much for listening.
Thank you, thank you. Can we keep clapping for her? Let's clap more for her. So please don't forget, if you have questions, I know you have many questions because we have business leaders here and we have upcoming leaders. So please don't forget to write down your question. And for our online audience, please type your question into the chat box so that we can take them and she can address some of those before we leave here. So very shortly, our next speaker will be coming up. And the next speaker is no one than Professor Chinedu Nebo. And briefly, I would like to read his citation. Professor Chinedu Nebo is a scholar, leader, and mentor of national and international repute. He has distinguished himself as a teacher, researcher, technocrat, and administrator par excellence. Professor Nebo served in several administrative capacities as Deputy Vice Chancellor, Enugu State University of Science and Technology, from January 2000 to January 2004, and also as Vice Chancellor of University of Nigeria, Nsukka, from 2004 to 2009, and another position of Vice Chancellor for Federal University, Oye Ekiti, from 2011 to 2013. Professor Nebo was honored as the best Vice Chancellor in Nigeria in the year 2006. And the most outstanding Vice Chancellor in 2007 by two independent unions, the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, which most time we know are often constantly at loggerheads with most leaders in Nigerian universities. Professor Nebo's astute leadership qualities was recognized by the federal government of Nigeria as he was appointed the Honorable Minister of Power from February 2013 to May 2015. His scorecard and achievement for his 2 years and 4-month tenure is widely available to everyone on his LinkedIn profile. So Professor Nebo's leadership tentacles spread to his immediate and distant communities as he served and serves on the board of several professional and voluntary organizations, including but not limited to members in the Enugu State Committee of Industrial Development, members Governing Council of Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, member Governing Board, National Primary Healthcare Development, the chairman, Voice Deaf Foundation. And also, he's not just a leader, but he's a Christian leader, because he's the Archdeacon of the Church of Nigeria, the Anglican Communion, Diocese of Nike. So, ladies and gentlemen present here, I am happy and privileged to present to you an administrator par excellence that is going to present to us a talk on transformational leadership in institutional and political setting. So please, let's clap our hands as Professor Chinedu Nebo presents our talk. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, sir.
This might to be part of. And I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Greg Erabo and his colleagues who have made this conference possible by the grace of God. Once again, thank you. Transformational leadership in institutional and political settings. I may like to ask, can anyone say anything new about leadership? Is it possible? Perhaps not. But we keep on learning and learning, because the moment we stop learning, we start dying. Transformational leadership is the topic for today in institutional and political settings. Transformational leadership is leadership that causes positive change in individuals and social systems in a sustainable and remarkable way, resulting in palpable impact and sustainable growth. Transformational leadership is different from transactional leadership in that transformational leadership is dynamic, flexible, malleable, impactful, innovative, holistic, analytical, and brings about growth, while the latter is essentially administrative, laid back, lackluster, and glued to maintaining the status quo. Transformational leadership, therefore, is what we are looking for. Although the topic is specific that has been given to me, my approach will be generic, since the principles I intend to outline have universal applications in all kinds of settings, whether in organizations, wherever organizations need leadership, or whether they are institutional, political, social, spiritual, and otherwise. Transformational leadership is characterized by integrity, credibility, positive attitude, purposefulness, humility, servant heart, high emotional intelligence, trustworthiness, doggedness, can-do spirit, visionary orientation, spirit of discernment, faithfulness, etc. Other attributes include the capacity for good judgment and handling difficult tasks, sound communication skills, organizational consciousness, good listening skills, focus, teachableness, and handling of criticisms productively. One crucial and very critical attribute of transformational leadership is setting correct priorities and brushing aside distractions that will prevent one from keeping the main things, and then not ever allowing oneself to start measuring on minors. So to be a transformational leader, you must learn to ward off distractions. One way of doing that in institutions or wherever you are is to deploy what they call the Pareto principle. Some people call it the 20-80 principle, and that is essentially setting priorities. Without setting priorities and doggedly following those priorities, you will not be a transformational leader. The famous leadership consultant, John Maxwell, reduced this Pareto principle to the following in general. Are the top 20% producers. That is the top 20% most effective of your personal development resources on this training for the next 20%. In order to be impactful and productive, avoid distractions, as I said earlier, that could derail your effectiveness. Distractions can be disastrous and they will cause you to derail. I'll give you some examples. 300 whales suddenly died somewhere. Why? They were busy chasing sardines. You know how small sardines are. But they saw this large group of sardines moving, and 300 whales went after them. And the sardines lured them to a very shallow bay, having shallow water. What was the result? All the 300 whales died, chasing insignificant sardines. Second, there is a bird called the crow. And the crow has a pet peeve and something it likes to do all the time, and that is annoy the eagle. Whenever the eagle is flying, a crow will be flying behind it, trying to annoy it. What does the eagle do? The eagle could easily turn around and tear the crow into pieces, but he never does that. The eagle just flies and moves up, ascends to greater height where the crow can never be. And that way, he doesn't spend any energy. It does what it likes to do best while warding off all kinds of distractions. There was also a personal experience where a friend of ours set up a bird feeder pan somewhere in the suburbs of Rapid City, South Dakota, so that any birds that come around can just pick some food and go, keep flying, come and stop, perch, pick up food and go. But at a time, a large bird came and occupied the place, driving away all the other birds that are smaller. In the end, who was the loser? The big bird. It couldn't fly around anymore. It became a self-imprisoned guard for food that was made for everybody. So, in warding off distractions, one must learn, if you want to be a transformational leader, to choose between what is good and what is better, and between what is better and what is best. You may need to say no to some good ideas in order to do the very best ideas. Whereas transactional leaders might even try to do things efficiently, the transformational leader prefers to be effective. Efficiency is doing things right, and efficiency is the foundation for survival. On the other hand, effectiveness is doing the right things well and is the foundation of success. You need both. But the most important one for transformational leaders is effectiveness. Transformational leaders are change agents. The kind of change that Nigeria government, the current one, promises us we are going to find. At the end of the day, we are much worse than what we were many years ago. Not that kind of change. We are talking about positive change. Although people are mostly resistant to change, transformational leaders bring about change by, one, being flexible enough to change oneself, one's idea. 20% who are the most effective, have them buy into this change, and then you can introduce it with them to the rest of the group. And then utilize, that is for transformational leaders, they know how to utilize high emotional intelligence to help douse any brutal effects of any change that comes their way and the way of the company. There are some attributes of transformational leadership that are in addition to these ones mentioned. One of them is out-of-the-box thinking. That is something that is alien to people. People will tell you, we always do it this way. This is the way it is done. It is never done this way. Those are transactional leaders. A transformational leader will think outside the box. He is not glued to any or tied to any apron strings. He is innovative. Transformational leaders think outside the box. Outside the box thinking is crucial and inevitable in a global knowledge-driven economy that is brutally competitive and unapologetically combative. One Chinese definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and this time expecting a different result. Not even magicians can do that. Out-of-the-box thinking inspires creativity, ignites strategic thinking, brings about unbiased analytical thinking, which leads to strategic planning and strategic actions. All of this, of course, is premised upon a robust SWOT analysis. That is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats which one must do. And these things are necessary for sustainable growth. Some of the out-of-the-box thinking experience that I had while at UNN and in other institutions include how I dealt with the menace of cultism. When I came to the University of Nigeria as Vice Chancellor, it wasn't the best of times. 2 years before my arrival, cultists had assassinated the Chief Security Officer of the university. 1 year before my arrival, cultists assassinated brutally the Dean of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences. So what was my approach? Zero tolerance, if possible. So many vice chancellors compromise by pandering to the whims and caprices